lively.
We're confronting yet another mass shooting. And today it happened on a military installation in our nation's capital.
It has happened again, a mass shooting, this time at a U.S. Navy yard. Many are dead and questions are being raised about security. If this could happen at a military installation, is any place safe from those who would do harm? Good evening, glad you're with us to start the week. Brooke Berry's off. At least 13 people dead. That includes the suspected shooter. Others are injured after an early morning shooting at the Washington Navy Yard. That's in the southeast corner of our nation's capital. Police say one shooter was killed, but they are still looking for another possible suspect, or at the very least a person of interest. We begin our CBS Local 2 coverage tonight with Danielle Nottingham and the latest from the scene of this most recent deadly mass shooting.
Helicopters evacuated victims from rooftops after shots rang out at the Washington Navy Yard this morning.
It was like pow, pow, pow. And then a few seconds it stopped, and then it pow, 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 pow.
More than a dozen people were shot, including one police officer. Navy Commander Tim Gyrus says he was standing next to one of the victims.
It could have easily been me, the guy who got hit, as opposed to the guy standing next to me.
The attack happened at the Naval Sea Systems Command headquarters, where about 3,000 people work.
One said, let's go, now, emergency exits go. And we got out of there pretty fast.
Police say the 34-year-old gunman, Aaron Alexis, was killed. The military says Alexis served in the Navy Reserves in Fort Worth, Texas until 2011, and then worked as a contractor for the Department of Defense.
We don't know what the motive is at this stage.
The Navy Yard is about 3.5 miles from the White House. The shooting led to heightened security across D.C. President Obama called the attack a cowardly act and spoke about the victims.
They're patriots, and they know the dangers of serving abroad, but today they face the unimaginable violence that they wouldn't have expected here at home.
The president promised a full investigation. Danielle Nottingham, CBS News, Washington.
In light of that shooting this morning in Washington that killed 13, including the shooter, Major League Baseball has decided to postpone tonight's game between the Atlanta Braves and the Washington Nationals. The ballpark, as you see there, is not far from the Navy facility where the shootings took place. Here you see a lowered flag at half-staff at the now deserted ballpark in honor of those victims today. Now, the shooting occurred at the military headquarters for Naval Sea Systems Command. It is one of 5 such commands where civilians, military personnel, contractors build, buy, maintain Navy ships and submarines. It is, by the way, the oldest naval installation in the U.S. dating back to 1799. It is also home to the Navy's top commanding officer. With security beefing up in parts of the country, my newsmaker tonight, a security and safety consultant with military background, Charles Bennett. Charles, welcome. What was the first thing you heard or thought this morning when you heard of this latest shooting in Washington at a naval compound?
Security.
Yeah.
Security and how the individual got on base.
If this can happen, and I think this is a question many of our viewers are asking tonight, at a military installation, admittedly one where there are certainly civilian personnel who come into contractors, which is pretty common at most military installations. I mean, is any place safe if you can't guard? And they have Marines, which is what you did, I believe. We're a Marine security guard. You have Marines guarding this naval station, and yet this could happen.
Well, it comes down to the security plan. Everything, whether it's a military base, a school, a shopping mall, comes down to the security plan and what measures are implemented.
And the measures at a place like this would normally what? Certainly ID to come in. I have to think metal detectors. Would you think that was required of anybody, even a contractor coming into that Navy base?
Well, it varies depending on whether you're driving or walking onto the base. When you approach a gate, if you're in the vehicle, you're going to be asked for identification, and generally every person in the vehicle has to provide identification also. Mm-hmm. So we stand at the gate as the military police. We have to check, verify, make sure the pictures and the people on the identification are who's actually in the car. Mm-hmm.
And again, as we said, and it's not uncommon. I mean, most military installations have a fair number of civilian employees who come in every morning and leave every evening. So this is not strictly military personnel, and that is not unusual at all.
No, not at all. Most military bases have some extent of civilian population on there working on the base. A lot of government contractors.
Yeah, and we saw it at Fort Hood back in 2009 with a tragic killing there. Again, the same number, 13 people dead. So I guess the fact, number one, there are a lot of weapons on a military base, so maybe these are key points in places where it is almost likely that there would be carnage like this. Would you agree or disagree?
The misconception about weapons on a military base is this. All the weapons on a military base that belong to the military are always kept in an armory. Weapons and ammunition and weapons and magazines are kept separate. They're locked in the armory. They have to be issued out by an armor. And regular civilians and active duty personnel, you cannot possess weapons. If you do have a weapon, and if you live on base or in the barracks, you have to surrender that weapon to the Provost Marshal's office.
And we should make clear that the early reports are that this apparent gunman this morning came onto that base with his own weapons. As we conclude here, again, you were in military security for some number of years. It's almost an impossible question to ask, I suspect, but what would you like to see done to, in some way, stop these heinous acts, not only in military installations, but in schools and places of work? Can anything be done?
Well, you can. It's a matter of how, if you're willing to.
What rights you want to take away? Is that what you're going to tell me?
Pretty much, and it's either we cater to to people being upset, or you go ahead and go forth with plans regardless if people are upset.
Yeah. Charles Bennett, thanks for coming in, sharing some thoughts on this.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. All right, the Silver Fire burned 20,000.